Thank you for joining us. My name is Paul Joyce. I'm a senior lecturer on the team. And also for my sins, I'm the admissions lead. So I'm responsible for basically getting students on the course. So I do all the admission stuff, open days, events like tonight, a virtual open evening. I arrange all the interviews, etc., etc. So, and then we have joining us Zainab. Zainab, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Zainab. I am a third year paramedic science student.
Fantastic. Right, so basically, what we're going to do this evening is I've got a short presentation. I could take hours with it, but I've been told 30 minutes. So I'm going to do a 30-minute presentation. Zainab can then have a little chat. If you've got any questions, either speak them or you can put them in the chat. And then we'll go from there. So without further ado then, paramedic science, why would you choose to come to City St. George's? There you go in a nutshell. We are one of the longest running paramedic courses in the country. Been going for over 20 years. The BSc has been going since 2014, when we were with Kingston University. Then we became St. George's, and now we are City St. George's University, probably the biggest healthcare university in the region. We have a very, very good relationship with London Ambulance Service, LAS, which I'll speak about a little bit later. And then the last 2 points on this slide, I think, are very important. We got revalidated. Well, every degree has to be validated to show it's fit for purpose. And we were revalidated in 2022, beginning of 23. And for the first time ever, we got endorsed by the College of Paramedics. Now, if you're probably aware, the College of Paramedics will soon to become the Royal College of Paramedics, which will be fantastic in the new year. They look after the sort of like the educational side of paramedicine. And then alongside that, since we've had the degree running, we've always been approved by the Health and Care Professions Council, the HCPC, of which you're probably aware of, and you hear a lot of talk about it. Basically, to be a practicing paramedic, you need to be registered with the HCPC, and then you renew that every so many years. About the course, obviously it's a 3-year undergrad course, but it's not as Zainab will tell you a little bit later, it's not your typical degree. You're not going to be stuck in a lecture theatre for 3 years. Oh no, it's very hands-on, it's very clinical, because if you think about it, we have a lot of skills, a lot of knowledge that we need to teach you as a paramedic student. So like I say, it's very, very hands-on. And then throughout the 3 years, you have integrated placements. So in your first year, you'll have 2 placements. And then your second and third year, you'll have 3 placements each year. And what we do, we split up the academic year. So you don't just have your placements in one block. You will have them scattered throughout the academic year. And then the course. So this is a representation of the course. It's a modular degree. And as you can see, it's 4 modules per year, which is fantastic. And if you think about it, level 4, level 5, level 6, it as year 1, year 2, year 3. Year 1 is what we would term our basics year. And because if you think about it, you come to us from a whole range of different backgrounds. And it's up to us. We've somehow got to get you on a level playing field. So that's what we use level 4 or year 1 as, to get you all up to the same level. And then level 5, level 6, or if you prefer year 2 and year 3, they're the 2 years that count towards your degree. So I always say, enjoy yourself in year 1, but buckle down in years 2 and 3, because you won't have time for anything else. The beauty of it being a modular degree is you get assessed at the end of every module. So unlike when I did my degree, I got assessed at the end of the 3rd year with huge exams. It was horrible. You get assessed at the end of every module. And if you look at the modules, basically what happens is Two of the modules are academic, and two of the modules will be skills-based. And in terms of assessment, you'll be assessed in all the usual academic ways. So you'll have essays to write, you'll have literature reviews to write, you'll have reflections to write. And then at the skills modules, we assess you in what we call an OSPE. And basically what that is, it's like a live skills exam where you're given a scenario and you're told, right, there's your patient, here's your kit, go and treat them. And you'll be assessed on how you treat that patient. And obviously, as you can imagine, as you go through the course, year 1, year 2, year 3, those scenarios will get a little bit harder as you progress through the degree. Anything perhaps to mention? Well, the third module in level 5, the mental health module, we were the first paramedic course in the country to have a module specifically on mental health. Because obviously, mental health is big and it always has been about the patient. But the realization now it's coming around, it's also the mental health of the practicing clinician. Very, very important. Because you can imagine as a paramedic or as a paramedic student, when you're out on placement, you are going to see some things that, how can I put this politely? You might not want to share with other people. And you might have a particular harrowing job that you go to, and you want some downtime afterwards to reflect, etc., etc. And that's where this sort of module prepares you for all those sort of things. And then level 6, the very last module there, transition to paramedic practice. This module is specifically designed to prepare you for when you go out in the real world, once you've graduated. And I'll touch upon one of the aspects of this module a little bit later. And describe it because I know Zainab's really looking forward to this one. So that's the degree, like I say, very modular. And I say the beauty of having these exams at the end of every module is when I say you can forget, once you've done that module, once you've done that assessment, you can forget it. You can't, but you know exactly what I mean. So how are you going to be taught on the course? Well, yes, you're going to be taught by all the usual lectures. So you'll have we have large lecture theatres where the whole cohort will be in. You'll also do group work and stuff like that. But because the cohort's usually about 100 students, we can't teach you skills all in one go. So what we generally try and do is we split you up into smaller groups. And then what will happen is, so we generally go for 6 groups. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, obviously. Groups 1 and 2 are in on a Monday. Groups 3 and 4 are on a Tuesday, and then groups 5 and 6 are in on a Thursday. Lectures are always Wednesday mornings and all day Friday. That is generally how the week works when you're on site at university. So it's roughly 2.5 to 3 days a week. Don't suddenly think, hang on, I've got all the rest of the days free. No. We give you those for private personal learning. You can see Zainab smiling there. Or again, think about it as an opportunity if you need to have a part-time job. You've got plenty of opportunity to do that. Third one, something we're very privileged to have access to because obviously we are associated with the teaching hospital. And what this gives us, what this gives you is access to the anatomy lab, or what used to be known as the dissection lab, where you get to learn and see with anatomical models and cadavers. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, there are an amazing anatomy and physiology books out there. There's some amazing videos out there and some amazing like online apps you can play with. But until you actually see that cadaver in front of you, it is like a light bulb moment. And then the pathology museum. Wow. I mean, I could spend hours in here because they have thousands and thousands and thousands of preserved specimens of parts of the human body and organs of the human body. And in some cases, you can see that journey from a healthy organ to a diseased organ and how it affects it. I mean, plus, I guarantee when you go there, you will see some specimens in there that you'll think, oh my goodness, that couldn't have come from a human body. There are some very interesting specimens in there. And then blended learning. Obviously, we all are au fait with this now, thanks to COVID. But post-COVID, we still think there's a place for blended learning. So some of your lectures will be online, whether they're actually live or pre-recorded. So we still see a place for blended learning. Also, we use something called Canvas, which is our virtual learning environment, our VLE. And the beauty of that is all the lecture presentations are normally posted up at minimum 24 hours beforehand. The beauty of that is before your lecture, you can go along and download the presentation, have a look at it and think, oh, actually, I know what this is about. Or the reverse, oh, drat, I don't know anything about this subject. I might have to listen. Also, the beauty of that is you've got those presentations where you can download them and look over them in your own time. Maybe after the live lecture, go back and have a look through the presentation, see if you understand what was said, etc., etc. And then I've already touched upon placements. We put a huge emphasis on placements in this course because there's nothing quite like learning, if you excuse the pun, on the job, so to speak. So, like I say, you have throughout the course of the year, throughout the course of the degree, you will have 8 placements. 3 big ones. Well, one every year. You're on the back of a London ambulance for a minimum of 8 weeks, which is fantastic. And then the other placements, 1 in your first year, 2 in the second year, 2 in the third year, you go into other clinical opportunities. So by the time you come to graduate, you'll have had a good introduction to some of the pathways that paramedics could find themselves in. Right. Let me just get rid of that. Right. The team. Well, I suppose the big thing is to point out is that first point, 15 practicing clinicians. And what we mean by that is you're not going to be taught by lecturers who've been doing it all, for years and years and years and years. Majority of our team are quite young, and they are still practicing out on the road. So when they're not teaching you, at university, they're out there at weekends, keeping their skills and their knowledge up to date, doing shifts. And as you can see, they all come from a lot of different backgrounds. So that's some of the opportunities that you will get once you're into your career. You might be given the opportunity, is there a pathway you want to follow? For example, our course director, Katie, she's a specialist mental health practitioner with CCAM. She's one of the leading lights in mental health in the country. We've got Red Cross clinical leads, we've got simulation specialists. I won't read the whole list out, but you'll see you're not just a paramedic. After a few years getting experience under your belt, you could become a specialist in a certain pathway. Alongside that, you've got an educational technologist, because obviously technology plays a huge role now in teaching you. And then we have 2 sim techs who look after our simulation center, which I'll talk about a little bit later. As and when we can, obviously another perk of being with a teaching hospital, we can get guest lecturers in, people who are experts in their field. So as and when the module, we get the opportunity in the module or wherever the lectures are being the subject lectures are, we'll invite experts in. I always use the midwives as an example, because why get a paramedic lecturer to talk to you about obstetrics and helping people give birth when we can get a midwife in? What a midwife doesn't know about helping people give birth probably isn't worth knowing. So that gives you the sort of insights, the expertise we can call upon. Now, I mentioned placements. So I've already mentioned, like, the big one every single year is on the back of an ambulance with LES. Now, here are some examples. It's not an exhaustive list, but here's some examples of some of the other placements you could find yourself in. For example, our first years who started at the end of September, they are now going to be going next week. They're going to be in the hospital ward for a week. You'll go on placement that quickly. And then for the second and third years, they could find themselves in any of these other opportunities. The big one at the moment is it's a growing field is paramedics going into prisons. Well, when I say going into prisons, you know what I mean. But that gives you some idea of some of the opportunities you could find yourself out in placement. Because what is happening now is people are actually realising, hang about, these paramedics, they've actually got a lot of knowledge and a lot of skills. Because you think, as a paramedic, you need to know a bit about everything. So you put a paramedic into, like, for example, a GP surgery, and they can do a lot of things that perhaps the nurse or the GP would have done originally, and that frees the GP up to do other things. So, like I say, the skills and knowledge of a paramedic now are becoming highly regarded and highly desirable. Student support, as I mentioned, I won't be about the bush. The degree is hard, and I'm probably saying that will probably back me up on this, because we've got a lot to teach you. We've got a lot of skills to get into, teach you about. Like I just mentioned, as a paramedic, you've got to know a bit about everything. It is a very hard degree, and the placements, when you go out on placements, you'll see some stuff that you really wish you hadn't, and you can't really go home and say, "Mum, Dad, guess what I saw today?" Because they really won't have an understanding. So we encourage our students to talk to each other, because there's nothing like peer support. Because if you think about it, they're out on placement as well, so they know what's going on. But alongside that, we have a senior lecturer who is a pastoral lead. And in terms of support, they have a mobile phone that's on work hours 5 days a week. Give them a ring if you have any issues or any problems. And if they can't fix it, they can probably push you in the direction of somebody who can. And then I think we are still the only paramedic course in the country that has something called the Blue Light Champions. And this is basically a voluntary scheme for our third years. And if they want to sign up for it, they do a little bit of a training course. And we do this in conjunction with Mind, the mental health charity. And if you sign up for it, we give you this lovely bright blue polo shirt. Oh, it's gorgeous. And if you're lucky, you get a lanyard as well. But basically, if you think about it, as third years, you know where the highs and lows of the course are. You know where those pressure points are. And you can help the first and second years at those points. And we've seen it to be very, very beneficial. And then alongside that, we have a senior lecturer who specialises in academic support, because we know that academia for some people, they will struggle through no fault of their own. And so we have a senior lecturer who what he doesn't know about supporting people in those situations, again, isn't worth knowing. He has a plethora of experience and knowledge in that area. They're the support bits of they're the student support that we have, particularly on our course. Now, if you think about it, alongside that, you have everything that the university offers. And that could be counselling. We have a free counselling service, and it's strictly confidential. You just sign up to a session. If you're struggling with some academic aspect, you can go to the library. They have a lot of experts there, like, for example, in terms of writing essays, in terms of doing referencing, etc., etc. I always say once you put your hand up and say help, I promise you, and you'll probably regret it, we will never leave you alone. It's something we pride ourselves on in terms of on our course. So what about the facilities then? Well, we are very, very fortunate in that we have our own paramedic clinical simulation centre. We were the first course in the country to have one back in 2015. Unfortunately, now a lot of our competitors have caught up with us, but hey. So what have we got down in our simulation centre? Well, we have a skills lab. And this is where I say you start your journey as a paramedic student. So this is where you start to get those building blocks that you need in terms of the kit you need to use and how to use it and where to use it. So I generally say, in this room, in this skills lab, we'll teach you where to prod people, stick people with sharp objects, or do a bit of bondage. Or if you prefer, we'll teach you how to intubate people. We'll teach you how to cannulate, and we'll teach you how to do fracture management on people, fracture, etc., etc. Once you've got all that sort of knowledge on board, we'll then let you loose in our simulation suite. And this is one massive room, and at one end of the room, we have 2 boxes of ambulances built to the spec of the London ambulances that are out on the road at the moment. The beauty of having these is you practice your simulation, your scenarios and your simulation in the back of one of these. So actually, when you go out on placement, you've got a rough idea of where all that kit is stored, how it works in conjunction, how to get those trolley beds in and out, etc., etc. So it's an invaluable simulation space. Up the other end of the room, we have what we call our flat, or what is our domicile rooms, I should say. And basically, if you think the most common rooms in a house where accidents happen could be bathroom, kitchen, bedroom, or a lounge. and we can mimic all those. So for example, the two pictures you have here, we have our kitchen, two different modules, two different scenarios. So the one on the left is a elderly gentleman, short of breath. And I've caught the student brilliant there because he's looking at his notes thinking, God, have I missed anything? And then the photo on the right is a different module. You can't see him, but it was a child thought it'd be really nice to cook his parents a meal, and unfortunately he's burnt himself. So we're trying to mimic real life situations, real life scenarios, but under safe simulated conditions. Last but not least, we also have two immersion rooms. We have a little one and a big one. And if you're not, oh, it's fantastic. Basically, you walk into what is a white room, and through the flick of a switch, through the wonders of technology, we can portray anything on the walls. So, for example, if you look at the picture on the left, this obviously is a fire scenario with a burns victim. So what we've done in here is, if you walk into the room, you can, with your eyes, you can see it's live footage of a fire, so you can see that going on. You can hear the flickering of the flames with your ears. If we put a bit of smoke in the room as well, you'd be like, yeah, I can smell it. And then because we can control the environment in there, we can put the temperature up. So it's like, blimey, it's hot in here. So basically, we're messing with your senses, but in a nice way. Excuse me. When you look at both these photos, these are what we call low fidelity simulation. So that's you and perhaps a crewmate interacting in that scenario with a mannequin or a dummy. We also do high fidelity. So I'm hoping the picture on your left, you can see there's a patient who's got a problem with his arm, and there's a lot of fake blood there. And basically, it's amazing what we can do in injuries. Again, trying to make it as realistic as possible, so when you actually go out on the road, the sight of blood doesn't phase you out. Pictures on the right. These are what we call moulage. I always get told off because I just call it fancy makeup, but the official term is moulage. So if you look at that bottom right-hand picture, you can see bite marks on the hand, and through just a little bit of fake blood, if I was to come up to you and show you a hand like that, even without you realizing, your brain or your eyes are sending synapses of information to your brain. It's like, oh my goodness, I can see the bite marks. With moulage, and I'll show you an example in a minute, we can make the most gruesome of injuries, and it's so realistic, it's unbelievable. We do the moulage on you sometimes in some of the scenarios. So what I would, please make sure you wipe it off before you leave the building. That's all I'm going to say there. Right, we're out of time. Right, major trauma training day. Right, this is one of the highlights of the third year. And as I mentioned, that module, transition to paramedic practice, that prepares you for life after graduation. This is the highlight. So, and this is something that Zainab is looking very forward to, I think. Basically, what we do, we take the whole of the simulation center and we take it somewhere outside into the real world. This one was where we took over the local army training depot for a week. And basically, when it's your skills day, you'll turn up and you'll be told that there's like 30 victims somewhere in that environment. You've got to go and find them and treat them. And you'll be doing this alongside the other emergency services. So we'll invite the fire brigade, we'll invite LAS, we'll invite the police along. And basically, they treat it as a training day as well, because they want to see how their systems work alongside how we work. And if you chat to any previous third years or graduates who've done this exercise, everyone loves it. It's one of the, basically, because you see over the 3 years, you're putting all that practice, all that knowledge, all those knowledge of how the skills work into practice. And it is a fantastic experience. And then talking to moulage, you can probably see that patient with the glasses on, she seems to be having a metal pole sticking out of her arm. That is the beauty of moulage. That's what we can do with moulage, the most realistic of injuries possible. Okay, so where do we work? So why would you want to come and be a paramedic student in London? Well, think about it. One of the most cosmopolitan capital cities in the world. During the week, you've probably got, maybe people commuting in as well. You've probably got about 50 million people working in London at any one point. That is a lot of people. Also, I think last year I was coming back through Stansted Airport and I saw a poster, and it said at any one point there are over 120 languages being spoken in London at any one point. Now think about it. Guaranteed you will get called to a job where English is not a first language. What are you going to do in that situation? Phone, Google, translate, help. We're very, very lucky. LAS has a translation line which you can ring up and they will get a translator in. But that's one of the challenges you might find. And then also think about it. Think of the rate of jobs you're going to get. You'll never be bored on shift. You'll never know what you get every single day. And I guarantee every shift you'll be very, very busy. But also the scope of jobs. You've got the whole gambit of jobs that in any one shift. And the sort of shifts that you get here and the jobs that entails might take you weeks or months to find or experience somewhere else in the country. That's the benefit of working in London. It is absolutely fantastic. Also, we're based in Tooting, one of the up-and-coming boroughs of London. It's a fantastic place to live, to work, to study. And you've got central London, 20 minutes on the Northern Line, I think on the Northern Line. So, we're that very well situated with public transport everywhere around us. Right. So what happens when you graduate? Well, you heard me talk about the Health and Care Professions Council, the HCPC. So when you graduate, you'll then be eligible to apply for registration with the HCPC. You need this registration to be able to practice as a paramedic. And also post-graduation, we have a very high rate of employability. I'd say majority of our students, if they want employment, get it within 6 to 9 months. And if you go and work with an ambulance trust, you'll be starting at band 5, which is about £28,500 basic salary. But if you put on top of that London waiting, antisocial hours, overtime, you can see that you can boost that to over 30,000 easily, which as a first-time salary is not bad. If you do go and work for an ambulance trust, you'll start what they call the NQP process, the newly qualified paramedic program, and that's a 2-year program. And that basically is just for them to see that you know what you're on about, and it gets you up to their standard of being a practicing paramedic. Year 2 of that, you'll be into band 6, and that's a starting salary. That's a salary of something like 33,000 basic salary. So you can see you're really stepping into quite a good salary bracket already. And then also active alumni. Some of our graduates, when they graduate, we just can't get rid of them. Lucky us. They keep coming back to help us on skills days, on open days. They'll help us with interviews. They'll come on careers days and give the benefit of their experience and their knowledge. And that's, for some people, that's a way into education if that's one of the pathways you're considering. Now, years ago, if you said to someone, "Oh, I'm going to be a paramedic," they'd have probably laughed and said, "Oh, you're going to drive an ambulance then, are you?" Well, luckily for you, those days are over. Yes, you will have to drive an ambulance at some point, but here's a very, well, it's not a concise list, but a list of some of the pathways that you could find yourself in if you're interested. And I'm going to be quiet for a minute and let you have a read. Okay, so I mean, the ones that if I always say on this slide, I say, right, are there any on there that takes your fancy? And normally the one that always comes top is HEMS paramedic. Not quite sure why, but think about it. That big red thing there you can see that flies around in the sky around London. HEMS, the London Air Ambulance Service, probably considered to be the best air ambulance service in the world. And to get seconded onto that, it's a very, very rigorous selection process. And if you do get seconded onto it, you're seen as a paramedic at the top of your game. It's that prestigious. Lucky for us, we've had quite a few members of our staff who've actually done a secondment on there. Other ones to pick out, expedition paramedic or wilderness paramedic. One of our lecturers who now runs a post-reg course, he is a wilderness paramedic. So he was on an expedition last year across South America. And I said, well, what did you do? He said, well, I rode a motorbike for 3 weeks. I said, didn't you treat anyone? He said, there was a few stings and a few plasters I had to put on, but no, I'm joking. But if that's the sort of thing you want, like I've already mentioned, we've got a number of paramedics now going into prisons. Custody paramedic is another one. I mean, I'm not going to read the whole list out, but this is some of the pathways that you can be considered once you've had a couple of years of experience under your belt. Is there any financial support available? It's a big yes. Basically, if you need financial support, the NHS Learning Support Fund, there is a lot in there, a lot of available finance, a lot of funding, and there's a number of areas, depending on what you're eligible for, that you can apply for funding. Alongside that, you will also get the NHS training bursary, which is £5,000 per year if you're eligible for it, and that's a present. You do not have to pay that back. And also alongside that, if you're eligible, you can get some money, some finance towards your travel and accommodation for when you're out on placement. Alongside that, the university has quite a few options for loans and for financial support as well. So it is there if you want it. The other day I came across this cartoon, and I thought it was quite apt for how people or different people perceive what paramedics do. I'll let you have a little read. I mean, it's quite interesting. Probably the one that you're going to be doing the most is that bottom right. Because if you think about it, the whole ethos of paramedicine now is out of hospital care, trying to keep those patients out of hospital. And if we can treat them at home in their own environments, the more the better. Right, so that's the end of the presentation. That is my email address. So after this, if you have any questions that we don't answer today, feel free to email me. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. I'll give you a chance to write that down if you need to make a note of it. Okay, I am going to stop sharing my screen now, if I can remember how to do it. Hopefully now we're back to the main screens where you can see our lovely faces. And I'm going to give Zainab a few minutes now because obviously you've heard her introduce herself. She's a current student on the course. I'm going to let her have maybe 5 minutes to chat about her experiences, A, being at the Tooting campus, B, being on the course, and Zainab, I'll leave it completely up to you.
First of all, Paul, I think you're still sharing your screen.
Oh, I might. Oh, I do apologise.
I'll let you sort that out first.
Is that any better?
I can still see your Teams chat.
Well, I tell you what, Zainab, they can hear you. I can hear you.
Yeah,
Just carry
yeah,
on
fine.
speaking while I try and
Fine.
figure it out.
That's all right.
Technology.
So, if you missed it, my name's Zainab, third year student. A bit about me first. I completed my A levels. I did English literature, psychology, and biology. And then I started attending these undergraduate events like you are right now, many recruitment events, and I volunteered at my local hospital. And for me, I was torn between paramedic science, sports psychology, and mental health nursing. But volunteering at my local hospital, I really realized that out of hospital care was actually my choice. So that's why I decided to study here. And my jump between A levels, or my previous level of study, to year one as a student paramedic, it was difficult. However, I think it was more difficult in the fact that there is a lot of biology and pathophysiology that you might want to kind of brush up on a little bit before coming in. But then at the same time, you build such a network with year twos and the year threes as well. And you get a little bit of a community, especially if you join like the sports societies or cultural societies. It's really nice because everyone is so willing to share their experience with you. I think we really realize when you're down in the simulation basement at the Tooting campus, everyone's so willing to talk to each other's, and it's really nice. I think Paul touched on the fact that we spend approximately 3 days at uni, self-directed learning as well. And when I tell you the simulation facilities are just so amazing, they are such a perfect way for you to practice in a safe, controlled environment before getting constructive feedback and then putting it into a real life situation. And I think the best way I could describe it is we did a scenario when we were in first year of a pub situation, doing chest compressions in a pub, having hecklers. We had the smoke, we had our friends being hecklers shouting at us. So it is that high fidelity, but also being in a controlled and safe environment. And it's just so much fun to have. In terms of academic support, there is such a wide variety of exams, essay writing, presentations, practical exams. Everyone has their strengths and weaknesses. So essay writing, however, there are academic support teams who help with referencing. You've got such a wealth of support. And I think it's also key to touch on the fact that you've also got a lot of well-being support. Paul mentioned that you do sometimes see some really harrowing things and it can be really intense at times. But you've got such a wealth of support, and I think you've also got to realize you've got the wealth of support from the paramedic department, but also being on placement, you've also got the LAS support as well. And being a undergraduate student at uni, you get that support. You've got the managers, the welfare teams, your mentors. You've obviously got the counselling service that Paul touched upon. It is genuinely really cool. Placements, I think that is the hugest part of our degree. There is such a big exposure. Sometimes you're out completing 12-hour shifts with a mentor, and over those 3 years, you genuinely build a confidence to attend, treat, and even complete paperwork. And not also forgetting you do a non-ambulance placement, and it's really nice because it sets you up for a career that you're not only interacting with multidisciplinary teams, you get to pick their brains and they are specialists in their field. So for example, the surgeons, they were amazing at talking about airways, or like the maternity team, they were so amazing at delivering babies and they know every little thing about it. And it's also nice to see the continuity of care. And I think the best way I can describe that is recently I was on the care home support team with liaison frailty nurses. An elderly population is such a big thing that we see in our caseload as a paramedic. So seeing their side of it, how they create urgent care plans and seeing that continuity of care, you genuinely get such a wide exposure. And also it sets you up for different career paths in the future. And probably just to sum it up, this degree is so rewarding. I recently just like reflected on how far I've come. I've gone from someone that was questioning my own self-worth, like I was really anxious, but now I can genuinely have conversation with patients. I can adopt the correct treatment plan. I'm also attending trauma cases out there. So genuinely, like, the progress and the growth you see within yourself is just so amazing. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to chuck them in.
Brilliant. Thank you for that, Zainab. I mean, it's worth touching on something you pointed out there, because obviously I see applicants on open days. I see them at interview stage. I see them on day one, week one of year one, and a lot of them wouldn't say boo to a goose. And then gradually over the 3 years, as Zainab's touched upon, you see that confidence grow. Excuse the phrase, but we can't shut them up. They just keep on talking. But that's it. It's the confidence to be able to interact with any member of the public. Because one of the questions I get asked a lot about is there any work experience worth going for? And I say, well, basically, any work experience that you do will have some application to being a paramedic. If you work in a shop, a restaurant, a pub, etc., you are having involvement with members of the public, whether they're happy, sad, angry, etc., exactly as the saying that you're going to have that interaction when you're a paramedic. So gaining that confidence over the time, it is amazing how our students blossom. Absolutely amazing. And I always remind our students on day one, week one, year one, I say the next 3 years of your life is going to go so quickly, you won't believe it. And Zainab will probably agree with me there.
100%.
The last 2.5 years, haven't they gone quickly?
So true.
You've had my presentation. You've heard from one of our current students. And perhaps we can open this up now to a Q&A, like I mentioned. I can see there's a question in the chat. Either put your questions in the chat, or if you want to speak them out, feel free to. Sophia, you're mentioning, yes, we are requiring treble B, or the equivalent of. And I'm looking at you're saying you're taking biology, chemistry, and physics. You're taking all the right subjects, and biology is the big one. Although, for the others on the chat here, on the presentation, if you're not taking biology at A level, don't worry. We have 2 modules in the first year, anatomy and physiology modules, that tries to get everyone right up to speed. That's fantastic. BBC, your predicted BBC, that would come to me then. Your application would come to me to see if I would acknowledge and accept it. So it's still worth applying. And if you were willing to wait to clearing, you'd definitely get a place with the BBC. So it's definitely worth applying with those grades. Scrolling down. Balance it. Very, very, very good question. Yes, a lot of our students, because obviously let's be upfront and honest. Going to university is expensive, especially when you're living in London. And what we're finding now is a growing percentage of our students now commute from home. And a lot of our students will have part-time jobs. As I mentioned, you're at university 2.5 to 3 days a week. That will always be Wednesday mornings and Fridays, and then depending on what sim group you're in. So there's plenty of scope for part-time jobs. But what you have to consider is when you're on placement, you are following the shift patterns of the paramedic that you're with. So that would be, it could be earlys, late, nights, days, 4 days on, 5 days on. So if you do get part-time employment, hopefully your employment will be flexible when it comes to the time you're on placement. Thank you of the course and how placements with the LS are done. Right. We're very, very fortunate that we have one of our senior lecturers is our placements guru. One of his primary role is to facilitate your placements. And we also have, when it comes to LES, we have a very good relationship with them, and we have what we call a link tutor. So we have someone from LAS who interacts with us, sorting out all your placements. So basically, every single placement that you do, we find that for you. You don't have to find your placements at all. And generally, 1 to 2 weeks beforehand, you'll get all the information about your placement, all the contact details that you need, and it will be then up to you to contact the right person to get ready for your placements. How many hours of placement studies complete per year of the course? Obviously, it differs per year because year 1, you're only doing 2 placements. Years 2 and 3, you're doing 3 placements. And it is a mixture of placement. Well, it's not every week. So what happens is you'll come to university and you'll have a block of learning at university. Then you'll go out on placement. Then you'll come back to university, we teach you another bunch of stuff. Then you go out on placement again. So basically, we're splitting the academic year up with placement blocks. So it's not every week, but it's in blocks throughout the year. How does the department support students preparing for graduate employment or for this? Right, okay. For graduate employment, as I mentioned, there's that 3rd year module called Transition to Paramedic Practice. This is the big module that prepares you for life after graduating. Also, throughout with the 2nd year and 3rd year, we have at the university we have our own careers department, and they come in and they give you sessions on how to prepare for interviews, how to write your CVs. And also in the 3rd year, we do a careers afternoon where we invite graduates and other, well, not just graduates, but paramedics from different fields. And they'll come in and they'll give a presentation on the career pathway that they're currently doing. So we'll have someone in from prisons, from forensic paramedics. We had one from a research paramedic. So all the various pathways that paramedics can find themselves in, we invite them in and they'll give you a talk about what they do, how they do it, and what's involved. What academic support if the system? Right. Okay then. Every student on the course has a personal tutor who we tell them you can contact your personal tutor whenever about anything. The personal tutor's role is to support you throughout the course. Alongside that, we have module leaders, and you can approach the module leaders if you're struggling with any aspect of a certain module. Alongside that, we have what we call year leads, and their responsibility, their responsibility is to look after each individual year. Alongside that, we have something called the Mums and Dads Scheme. And again, this is something similar to our Blue Light Champions, where you get assigned a mum or a dad right at the beginning of your degree. And again, they're there to support you. And if you remember, alongside that, there's all the support services the university offers as well. There's the free counselling service, there's the academic support service in the library, etc., etc. So there is a huge amount of support available if you want it or if you need it. How is the social life at uni? Do you actually have time to visit? Well, I can't really answer that.
I think I'll actually jump back to one of the other questions. You can have a social life, and you can also work part-time. I work part-time. I do a lot of stuff on the sides. But then, like Paul said, you do have to remain dedicated to this course. There are times where you've got placement, but you also can work. So don't think that's going to be a barrier. And social life, it's so cool. Like, you can have sports societies every Wednesdays. There's socials in the uni bar that we've got, which is really fun. There's so many events going on. I think I can talk for the netball society. That's what I was in. Sports societies are so good. You've got competitions running. We've also integrate other sports societies. So we've also been with basketball as well, rowing society. And also I commuted to uni. So I've had to manage my time really well. However, there is always time to have fun. You can unwind, and you have to unwind, because it can be quite a daunting degree. But if you don't have that coping mechanism, you need to unwind.
Absolutely. Because I always say to students, I say, come to university, yes, it's about getting a qualification, but also it's about growing up as a person. It's about finding yourself as a person. you'll hopefully you'll meet a group of friends that you'll have for the rest of your life. But in terms of what Zane said, it's interesting. A lot of our students do a sport of some sort. Sport is a good, really good stress reliever. And I went to Freshers' Fair the other day, and I was amazed at the number and variety of societies that exist. Basically, if you can think about something, a society exists for it. It is amazing. And then, where are we? And I can also vouch for our student union bar. So it's not your usual student union bar because if you think about it, it's attached to a hospital. So it's only open in the evenings during the week. But almost every evening that something is going on in there is quite entertaining. Halls, if you perhaps you're not aware, but the Tooting campus, well, we're not your typical university. We're not a campus university. We are a central city university. So our halls are about a 10, 15-minute walk away. And basically, if you know anything about halls of residence, it consists of a flat, and I think it's 6 people per flat. And they just range in price depending on what you want to pay for. But you can either be in a flat with same course students, or you can be in a mixed course flat, depending on what you can have. Quiet flats, you can have single sex flat. It all depends what you're after. There's a huge mixture of what you can apply for. What do you think this sets this course apart from similar ones at other universities? Right. Well, Zainab, while I'm speaking, think a couple of things you can say.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that will give you an advantage coming onto this course is being in London, because I've already touched upon it. The exposure you will get on placement when you're on our course is immense, and that will really stand you in good place going forward. I think the caliber of our staff, because Zainab will tell you, we're so enthusiastic. We will do our utmost if you have an issue, if you have a problem, because once we get you on the course, we don't want you to have to ask you to leave the course. We want you to graduate. All our course staff are very, very approachable, and it's not, you don't, if you have an issue, you don't have to wait to see your tutor. You can ask any member of the staff, and Zainab will tell you everyone's on first name terms with everyone else. There's no airs and graces with us. There's no, I'm a member of staff. You know, there's none of that. Zainab will tell you about that. And also, I think it's the facilities we have. Are the facilities that we have on site. Scope the other day, and the amount of kit and stuff we have done in our simulation centre is over 1.5 million. And the university wouldn't pump that sort of money in if they weren't, intent on giving you the best opportunity and, building the best course that we can. There's some of the things I think. Zainab, have you got anything to offer to that?
I would definitely say the fact that we are in London. I think when you're on placement, you meet such a wide range of people that I probably wouldn't see outside of London. And everyone comes from a different walk of life, whether it's diversity, whether it's language barriers, but then it also equips you with skills of how to go about those barriers that you might consider. And maybe if you did move out from London, you've always got those skills in your back pocket. And also, yes, the staff. I think the staff are amazing. Genuinely, like, if there is a query or concern, everyone has that knowledge. And if not, someone can always tell you to go to this person instead. So everyone's just so open. And I think the community we have, I was saying when I was talking before, like when you're down in that simulation basement, everyone's just so friendly with each other. We're all like, the year ones are approaching the second years, the second years are approaching us, and it's all like a little bit of a little family, but a really friendly family.
Yeah, when we were revalidated, that was one of the highlights that we were highly commended upon, was the family atmosphere that we encourage between our students. There's no, oh, you're a second year, I'm not speaking to you. There's none of that. As Zainab said, when you're down in the simulation centre, everyone mixes with everyone. Everyone's asking questions about, to each other. It's fantastic. I've just remembered something perhaps I should have said earlier about driving. There are no driving requirements while you're on our course. because I know for some paramedic courses in other parts of the country, they expect you to be able to drive to placement. We don't. Because of where we are in Tooting, the public transport links we have are amazing. So you'll never stop for any, some option of public transport to get to where you need to go. Currently, you need what we call a C1 license to drive an ambulance, and that's all based on weight. We generally recommend to get that in your third year, so I wouldn't worry about that at the moment. And then in terms of, like, say, your normal driving license, if you haven't got one yet, don't worry. We always, if you go and work for an ambulance trust, what their premise is, they will expect you to have a clean manual driving license for a minimum of 1 year when you join them. And I have to stress, it's manual, not automatic, unfortunately. We're coming to the end of the presentation. We've got a couple more minutes, and I know there's only a few of you in the chat, but are there any further questions that you might like to ask?